The massive starship Celestial Guardian drifted silently through the inky blackness of space, its sleek titanium hull reflecting distant starlight. Jun-Ho Park leaned against the observation deck, nursing a cup of hot coffee, his eyes scanning the endless cosmic canvas. Outside, the universe seemed peaceful, but everything was about to change. Klaxon alarms shattered the calm. Yuna Kim's voice crackled through the ship's communication system, her tone sharp and urgent. Unidentified massive objects approaching from Sector 7 Gamma. Size comparison indicates they're significantly larger than our standard reconnaissance. Vessels. Jun-Ho set down his coffee. The ceramic mug trembled slightly as deep vibrational pulses began resonating through the ship's metal framework. Something big was coming. On the primary display, strange biomechanical shapes materialized, creatures that seemed part organic, part machine. The Kralzar weren't just aliens, they were living weapons. Their spacecraft looked like metallic organisms, with pulsing energy conduits and reactive armor that seemed to breathe and adapt in real time. Defensive protocols, Jun-Ho asked, his fingers already dancing across holographic control panels. Yuna's avatar flickered, her expression a mixture of professional calm and underlying tension. Shields at maximum, quantum disruption fields are charging. But these readings, they're unlike anything in our database. The first wave of Kralzar ships moved with terrifying precision. Each vessel seemed alive, with tentacle-like energy weapons that could slice through conventional spacecraft like paper. Their technology wasn't just advanced, it was almost magical. In its complexity, Jun-Ho remembered his training. Earth's military had prepared for first contact scenarios, but nothing could truly simulate the raw, visceral experience of facing an unknown civilization. The Kralzar weren't just visitors, they were predators looking at humanity as potential prey. Initiate first contact protocol, Jun-Ho commanded. Standard linguistic translation matrices, universal communication frequencies. A massive Kralzar vessel, easily 10 times the size of the Celestial Guardian, emerged from quantum space. Its surface rippled with biometallic scales that seemed to absorb and redirect energy. Weapon ports opened like alien flower petals, each capable of unleashing destruction beyond human comprehension. Yuna's voice dropped to a whisper. They're not responding to our communication attempts. Jun-Ho watched as strange holographic symbols danced across their communication screens. The Kralzar weren't just speaking. They were projecting complex multidimensional language patterns that human computers struggled to interpret. Suddenly, a transmission broke through, not in words, but in raw emotional impulses. Jun-Ho felt a wave of contempt, superiority, and cold calculation wash over him. The Kralzar weren't interested in diplomacy. They were sizing up humanity as a potential resource to be consumed. They see us as livestock, Yuna muttered, her hands moving faster across control systems. The first energy burst came without warning. A lance of pure destructive power that could have obliterated a small moon sliced past the Celestial Guardian's hull, missing by mere kilometers. It was a warning shot, a demonstration of overwhelming power. Jun-Ho's training kicked in. While the Kralzar expected submission or terror, humanity had something they couldn't predict: adaptability, courage, and an unbreakable spirit of resistance. Prepare quantum jump sequence, he ordered, but not for retreat, for counterattack. The ship's quantum drive hummed to life, its intricate systems ready to perform maneuvers that would shock their alien visitors. Jun-Ho knew this was more than a battle. This was humanity's first true test against a galactic civilization that considered themselves unquestionable apex predators. Little did the Kralzar know, they had just made the biggest mistake of their evolutionary history. As the Celestial Guardian prepared to respond, Jun-Ho allowed himself a small, determined smile. First contact wasn't about who had the biggest weapons. It was about who had the most unexpected strategy, and humanity was about to show the universe exactly what that meant. The stars outside seemed to hold their breath, waiting. End of Part 1. The outer colonies burned. Plasma storms illuminated, devastated. Landscapes where human settlements once thrived. Massive Kralzar dropships descended like metallic nightmares, their biomechanical legs crushing infrastructure with terrifying precision. David Kim watched the initial assault reports streaming across multiple holographic displays. Each screen showed different planetary perspectives, some showing complete destruction, others capturing humanity's desperate resistance. The Earth Defense Force Command Center hummed with controlled chaos. They're targeting population centers with surgical accuracy, Lieutenant Bay noted, her fingers racing across quantum communication interfaces. No random bombardment. Every strike is calculated. The Kralzar weren't just attacking. They were systematically eliminating potential resistance, evaluating human defensive capabilities with cold mathematical precision. Their technology seemed generations ahead. Adaptive armor that could regenerate, energy weapons that could penetrate conventional shielding, and invasion strategies that shifted instantaneously. On Proxima Colony, ground forces witnessed something unprecedented. When human military units fired standard projectile weapons, Kralzar soldiers simply absorbed the impacts. Their exoskeletons contained microscopic regenerative nanites that instantly repaired molecular damage. A bullet wound would heal within milliseconds. But humans had something the Kralzar never anticipated: innovative thinking. Captain Hyun Park, stationed on the colony's western defense perimeter, realized conventional warfare wouldn't work. While military strategists prepared traditional counterattacks, he developed something radical. Electronic interference, he explained to his squad. We can't defeat their physical capabilities, but we can disrupt their communication networks. Using modified communication jammers and quantum frequency modulators, Park's team began broadcasting complex algorithmic signals designed to confuse the Kralzar's biomechanical coordination. Suddenly, their perfect synchronized movements started fragmenting. One Kralzar combat unit suddenly turned against another, their intricate neural networks becoming momentarily susceptible to human-engineered digital chaos. It wasn't just a military strategy, it was psychological warfare at its most sophisticated level. The alien invaders had anticipated facing a technologically inferior species. Instead, they encountered something far more dangerous: a civilization capable of rapid adaptation and unconventional problem-solving. On orbital platforms, human engineers worked furiously. They weren't just defending, they were studying. Every Kralzar weapon discharge, every invasion pattern became data. Within hours, research teams were developing targeted countermeasures. Dr. Su Jin, a brilliant xenobiological engineer, discovered something extraordinary. The Kralzar's regenerative capabilities weren't just technological, they were fundamentally biological. By analyzing molecular transmission patterns, she identified potential genetic vulnerabilities. Their strength is also their weakness, she reported to David Kim. Their rapid cellular regeneration creates predictable molecular resonance frequencies. If we can disrupt those frequencies, we can essentially short-circuit their healing mechanisms. Across multiple planetary theaters, human forces began implementing these revolutionary strategies. Specialized electromagnetic pulse weapons, genetic frequency disruptors, and quantum communication hijacking turned the tide. The Kralzar, for the first time, experienced something they never expected: uncertainty. On New Singapore Colony, an entire invasion force found their advanced weaponry mysteriously malfunctioning. Adaptive camouflage systems failed, communication networks collapsed, and their perfect combat formations disintegrated into confused clusters. Human soldiers, often outnumbered and technologically outmatched, used terrain, creativity, and pure determination as their primary weapons. They weren't just fighting, they were evolving their combat strategies in real time. One Kralzar commander, observing the unfolding chaos, transmitted a chilling message back to their central command. These humans, they do not fight like any species we have encountered. They are not defeated. They are transforming the very nature of conflict. As planetary battles raged, humanity demonstrated something profound. Technology wasn't just about superior hardware, it was about intelligent, adaptive thinking. The ability to learn, transform, and overcome. The initial assault wasn't just a battle. It was humanity's declaration to the universe. We are not your prey, we are something entirely unexpected. The stars watched. The galaxy held its breath. End of Part 2. The research facility deep beneath the Atacama Desert looked more like a science fiction movie set than a real scientific installation. Jay Lee stood before massive holographic displays, his eyes reflecting the quantum computational patterns dancing across multiple screens. Breakthrough wasn't just a word here. It was a way of life. The Kralzar had seemingly unbreakable communication networks, biomechanical systems that could adapt and redirect information faster than any known technology. But Jay saw something different, where others saw impenetrable defenses. He saw patterns, vulnerabilities. It's like their entire neural network is one massive living organism, he muttered to his research team. Young scientists from around the globe worked side by side, their fingers racing across quantum interfaces, breaking down alien communication structures molecule by molecule. Dr. Kim Young-soo, a quantum neural network specialist, discovered the first critical weakness. The Kralzar's communication wasn't just technological, it was a living, breathing, biological system. Each transmission carried unique molecular signatures that could be traced, understood, and ultimately manipulated. Imagine a language so complex it existed beyond sound or visual communication, a language that lived and breathed at the quantum level. In the underground laboratory, prototype devices began taking shape. They weren't weapons in the traditional sense. They were precision instruments designed to hack the very essence of Kralzar. Communication-orbital satellites positioned around Earth began collecting unprecedented amounts of data. Every Kralzar transmission became a puzzle piece, every energy signature a potential exploit. We're not just defending, Jay explained to the Global Defense Council. We're learning their entire communication ecosystem. Specialized quantum processors, cooled to near absolute zero temperatures, began decoding complex alien transmission patterns. Each breakthrough came with risks. One wrong calculation could trigger catastrophic system failures. But humans thrived on pushing boundaries. The first successful infiltration happened near Jupiter's orbital research station. A small human probe, barely the size of a basketball, managed to inject a complex algorithmic sequence into a Kralzar communication hub. Within milliseconds, their perfect coordination began to fragment. Imagine watching a perfectly synchronized dance suddenly fall into chaos. That's what happened to Kralzar battle networks. Military strategists watched in amazement as entire alien combat units began experiencing communication breakdowns. Ships that once moved with terrifying precision now drifted uncertainly. Weapon systems that could obliterate planets now fired randomly, often destroying their own infrastructure. Dr. Park Yoon-ji, a brilliant cybernetic engineer, developed what would later be called the neural disruptor, a device that could fundamentally alter how the Kralzar processed information. It wasn't about destruction, it was about communication manipulation. They think in collective consciousness, she explained. We're essentially introducing a virus into their collective thinking process. Global research centers worked around the clock. Universities became battlegrounds of intellectual warfare. Every scientist, every researcher understood they weren't just fighting an alien invasion. They were redefining the boundaries of technological possibility. Quantum computers in Beijing calculated potential communication infiltration strategies. Neural network specialists in Seoul developed molecular-level transmission hijacking techniques. Cybernetic research teams in Silicon Valley created adaptive algorithmic weapons. Humanity was transforming warfare from physical confrontation to intellectual manipulation. The Kralzar, for the first time, experienced something they never anticipated: technological uncertainty. Their perfect collective communication network was being systematically dismantled by a species they had initially considered primitive. One Kralzar communication log, later recovered, summarized their growing confusion. The humans do not fight, they think, and their thinking is a weapon more dangerous than any physical technology. As technological warfare escalated, something profound became clear. This wasn't just a battle between species. It was a contest of intellectual evolution, and humanity was just getting started. The universe watched. The stars seemed to hold their breath. End of Part 3. The deep space navigation chart of the Carina Nebula glowed with an eerie blue light. Captain Suhan's fingers traced potential invasion routes, her eyes calculating probabilities that would make most mathematicians dizzy. The Celestial Hawk, humanity's most advanced stealth spacecraft, prepared for its most dangerous mission. Unlike traditional warships, this vessel was a technological ghost. Quantum camouflage systems could bend light, redirect energy signatures, and essentially make the ship invisible to even the most advanced Kralzar scanning technologies. "We're not just going to attack," Sue whispered to her tactical team. "We're going to make them question their entire existence." Psychological warfare had become humanity's most potent weapon. The Kralzar understood physical combat, technological superiority, but they couldn't comprehend strategic manipulation that attacked their core cultural beliefs. Navigation Lieutenant Min Park prepared complex quantum jump sequences. Each calculation was like solving a multidimensional chess problem, where losing meant planetary extinction. The ship's artificial intelligence continuously ran millions of potential scenarios, selecting the most unpredictable path. Their target: a critical Kralzar communication and strategy hub located in a region humans had nicknamed the Nightmare Quadrant, a section of space so densely packed with radiation and gravitational anomalies that traditional navigation became nearly impossible. The mission wasn't about destruction, it was about sending a message. As the Celestial Hawk approached the alien stronghold, something extraordinary happened. Instead of traditional weapon systems, they carried something far more dangerous. Advanced quantum communication disruptors designed to not just interrupt alien networks, but fundamentally challenge their collective consciousness. Imagine a weapon that could make an entire civilization question its own existence. Holographic interfaces showed the Kralzar hub, a massive space station that looked more like a living organism than a technological structure. Tentacle-like energy conduits pulsed with alien biorhythms, defense systems constantly shifting and adapting. "Target locked," Min announced, her voice calm despite the mission's incredible complexity. The first strike wasn't physical, it was informational. Highly sophisticated algorithmic sequences began penetrating the Kralzar's communication networks. These weren't just computer viruses, they were carefully constructed philosophical and strategic paradoxes designed to create cognitive dissonance. Imagine sending a message that fundamentally challenges an entire civilization's understanding of reality. Kralzar defense systems began experiencing unprecedented failures. Communication networks that once operated with machine-like precision started fragmenting. Entire battle groups suddenly found their coordination collapsing. Their perfect strategic calculations becoming meaningless noise. "They're experiencing something they've never encountered," Sue explained. "Uncertainty." The psychological impact was more devastating than any physical weapon. The Kralzar, who had conquered countless civilizations through overwhelming technological superiority, suddenly found themselves vulnerable, not to physical attack but to intellectual manipulation. Quantum transmission logs captured something unprecedented. Kralzar communication networks, expressing what could only be described as confusion, then fear. Their perfect collective consciousness was being systematically dismantled, not through violence but through intelligent disruption. Space itself seemed to vibrate with tension. The Celestial Hawk moved like a phantom, striking strategic points with surgical precision. Each attack was calculated to maximize psychological impact rather than pure destruction. "We're rewriting the rules of conflict," Sue told her team. "They understand weapons, they don't understand adaptive intelligence." As the mission progressed, something extraordinary emerged. The Kralzar weren't just experiencing a military defeat, they were experiencing an existential crisis. Their entire culture, built on technological superiority and collective dominance, was being challenged by a species they had initially considered insignificant. The universe watched. Galaxies held their collective breath. Humanity wasn't just fighting, They were evolving warfare itself. End of Part 4. The final battlefield stretched across 3 star systems, a cosmic canvas painted with the remnants of Kralzar civilization. Junho Park stood on the bridge of the Celestial Guardian, watching. As humanity's ultimate strategy unfolded, this wasn't just a war, it was the final chapter of an alien species' existence. Quantum communication networks revealed the Kralzar's last desperate transmissions. Their once mighty collective consciousness was fragmenting, reduced to scattered signals of confusion and terror. Entire planetary defense systems collapsed not through brute force, but through intelligent surgical disruption. They thought we were prey, Yuna Kim muttered, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. They never understood we were evolution personified. The last Kralzar stronghold, a massive planetary complex that had survived thousands of years of galactic conflicts, now stood vulnerable. Its biomechanical defenses, once considered impenetrable, now looked like fragile glass waiting to shatter. Specialized human strike teams moved with unprecedented precision. They weren't just soldiers. They were tactical philosophers, each movement calculated to exploit not just physical weaknesses but psychological vulnerabilities. Dr. J. Lee's quantum disruption technologies had transformed warfare. Where previous civilizations would have required massive fleet deployments, humans used intelligent systems that could adapt faster than the enemy could comprehend. One by one, Kralzar communication nodes went dark. Their perfect, collective consciousness, once the terror of multiple galaxies, now resembled a dying neural network, its complex connections systematically severed. The attack wasn't about total destruction. It was about complete systemic collapse. Orbital platforms captured the most remarkable footage in human military history. Kralzar ships, once moving with terrifying synchronization, now drifted aimlessly. Their adaptive technologies became their greatest weakness, each system turning against another in cascading failure. "We're not just defeating them," Captain Suhan explained to the Global Defense Council. "We're demonstrating the true power of adaptive intelligence." Specialized quantum weapons didn't just destroy. They dismantled entire communication infrastructures, turning the Kralzar's greatest strength, their collective consciousness, into their ultimate vulnerability. Imagine a weapon that could make an entire civilization forget how to function. On multiple planetary theaters, something extraordinary happened. Kralzar soldiers, once perfect killing machines, began experiencing individual consciousness. Their collective mind, which had suppressed individual thought for millennia, suddenly fractured. Some surrendered. Some fought mindlessly. Most simply stopped. Human research teams documented every moment. This wasn't just a military victory. It was a fundamental transformation of galactic understanding about intelligent conflict. The final assault came not with massive explosions, but with precise, intelligent disruption. Quantum communication viruses spread through Kralzar networks like a digital plague, systematically dismantling their entire evolutionary strategy. "They conquered through collective strength," Junho observed. "We defeated them through individual adaptability." Massive Kralzar planetary complexes began shutting down. Defense systems that had obliterated countless civilizations now turned into massive, silent monuments to a species that had finally met its intellectual match. Global celebration erupted. But this wasn't just a military victory. It was a profound statement about human potential. The last Kralzar communication transmission captured something unprecedented, a message of complete surrender, but more importantly, of respect. "Humanity is not a species," the transmission read. "It is an evolving concept of intelligence." As the final Kralzar stronghold fell, something became crystal clear. This wasn't just about winning a war. It was about proving that adaptability, creativity, and collective human innovation were the most powerful weapons in the universe. The stars seemed to pause. The galaxy held its breath. Humanity had not just survived. They had redefined the very concept of survival. The universe would never be the same. End of Part 5.